Welcome to Reanimated, the podcast about all things zombie. Hello, my name is Stuart. We're laughing and smiling in our voices because I just tried to do something stupid and then realized how dumb it was, so I switched back to this. My name's Stuart. I'm in California. Joining us this morning is H.A. Conrad in Brooklyn. Hello.
Hello, hello.
And our special HBO correspondent, Kyle Diaz, has joined us for the late breaking news. Hello, Kyle.
Good morning, Stuart.
Yeah, I'm not going to break any bones about it. There's a big merger on the horizon, and when I saw the headlines, there was nobody else I could call faster than a certain Kyle, who has lots of opinions about this brand and now what a merger between Netflix and Warner Brothers slash HBO could mean. So, Kyle, what are your initial impressions?
Did I go on one or two rants about HBO and Max Originals on this podcast? I think I might have gone on two.
I think it was more than two, Kyle.
Okay,
It was a
so
theme. This was a theme of your appearances,
I
and
went on enough of
every
them.
time I see the logo or the app, all I can think about is you. So there.
So I'm glad that I uh I I just off the cuff ranted enough that you guys saw this and were immediately like, Kyle must be consulted.
Actually, that is exactly what I. So I didn't even realize that Stuart had raised it with you because I didn't know if you would be available. But that was the first thing I thought when I saw the news.
Um, so just a little bit of background that listeners may not know, and feel free to interrupt if I'm going into places that your listeners do not care about. But I think it all kind of plays into like the fears around what the fears and the hopes for what could happen for Warner Brothers, HBO, and all the rest of those brands under Netflix's stewardship. Um, so Warner Brothers has obviously existed as a film studio throughout all of these many, many different owners, partnerships, permutations since like 1972. Like it was part of Time Warner, where it was affiliated with Time Magazine. They bought Ted Turner's TV channel and then eventually bought AOL. So then they were AOL Time Warner. They merged with Discovery. They were owned by AT&T. So kind of through it all, Warner Brothers, the actual film studio that has like lot space in Hollywood, has just kind of kept chugging along. But it's managed to survive and kind of garner IP through a lot of different lives as a company. They were merged with Discovery, I think, 3 years ago, and they came under a CEO named David Zaslav. And at that time, there was also a lot of fear because David Zaslav had been running Discovery since like 2005-ish. And David Zaslav, or sorry, Discovery started as like pretty much an educational TV channel conglomerate. So they owned like Travel Channel and Food Network and stuff like that. And then under Zaslav had really pivoted toward like kind of reality TV and had kind of dumbed down the brand in a lot of ways. And so people were like, "Oh, this sucks." Like Warner Brothers HBO is now owned by under the control of this guy who loves reality TV. That he's going to really dumb down the brand. Like he's going to destroy this IP that everybody loves. All that kind of stuff. And that didn't really happen. So Zaslav's tutelage has seen some really bizarre brand moves, and that's what I ranted about the last time I was here, that HBO Max was its own thing, and then they started Max Originals, which were HBO-like shows that weren't produced by HBO, and then they threw away the name HBO and made the whole thing Max for a while, and then they brought back the HBO because they realized they'd made a mistake, and so they made all these weird like branding decisions, but they've actually continued to make good TV and movies during this time. They have not like, really pushed the Discovery model onto Warner Brothers HBO. And so if you look at like Warner Brothers releases this year, they released Sinners, they released One Battle After Another, they released Weapons, like they have both like critical hits and also box office hits this year. HBO's got The Last of Us and other hits this year, so it's all been pretty okay under Zaslav's stewardship. And about a year ago, I think it became clear that they were actually preparing to once again separate the kind of prestige brands of Warner Brothers and HBO from Discovery and do their own thing with sell them to somebody else basically. And the bidder that emerged that was most prominent was Paramount, which is owned by the Ellison family, the same people who own uh, uh, Oracle, like that Ellison dynasty. Basically, they have all the money in the world, and some of the children of Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, who run Paramount, really, really wanted Warner Brothers and HBO. And so they were kind of the presumptive buyer up until about 2 days ago when it came out that Netflix had won the rights to buy Warner Brothers, the Warner Brothers and HBO part. They're not buying the Discovery part. They're just buying the Warner Brothers and HBO
Right.
part.
Hasn't Paramount also gobbled up some other stuff recently? Like I felt like they had some other
Yeah,
high
they've
level.
been on a bit of a buying spree. And you see a lot of this um, consolidation in the media markets right now and people moving back toward these kind of like mega bundles that look more like cable. You know how your Disney Plus login can now get you,
Right. Hulu,
Snow White.
ESPN, yeah.
Yeah, it gets you like Snow White, A Handmaid's Tale, and Monday Night Football somehow. That's like the cable model. Um, so so the two options on the table for Warner Brothers and HBO were either Paramount or Netflix. And there's a lot of fear and concerns about Netflix buying them, but I actually think between those two, it's kind of the better option. Um, Paramount runs a movie studio, first of all, so they already have their own movie studio. So I have to admit, or I have to think that there's a lot of like basically shuttering of those buildings and facilities that would have happened under Paramount because there just would have been a lot of redundant spaces and things like that. And then, um, the Ellisons are quite, I don't know, they're quite conservative folks. They seem to be imposing kind of like a right-wing viewpoint on the stuff that they make. I just can't really see Warner Brothers and HBO making the kinds of exciting, boundary pushing stuff that especially HBO is known for under their ownership. So Netflix basically presents its own fears because of their long noted like uh antipathy to streaming, sorry, to theatrical releases in favor of streaming. And so I think that's where most of the concern is that Netflix will buy Warner Brothers and then go to movie theaters and basically say, okay, you get like a 2 week window, or you get no window, or Warner Brothers is going to produce things straight to Netflix or whatever. And I think people see that that has been pretty much a losing strategy for Netflix recently, that there's a lot of like um, anger or unhappiness amongst like the broader public about Netflix's kind of spray and pray model that they've been doing the last few years. So I think those are really well-founded fears, but all in all, I think HBO will probably become like a top, like an upper tier for Netflix. Like you'll either pay for Netflix or you'll pay for Netflix plus HBO. I really, really hope that they continue to run that as its own business with its own kind of development pipeline because HBO does better stuff than just about anybody. And then I think they'll probably continue to just run Warner Brothers as it's run for 75 years or something as a movie studio. And it remains to be seen how much they're able to kind of impose their preferences on the movie theater exhibitors. But
Well, I mean, the thing is though, is that the last time there was a merger like this, it did affect, and greatly so, theatrical releases. So like when Disney acquired Fox, that's like that was before pandemic, but you can look at the like how many theatrical releases there were, and those all went down significantly. I think you could also argue that from an antitrust perspective, this poses a lot of issues. So this does have to get through and approved before they even get anywhere. And even just looking like, sure, they could say that they were going to go and do that and run it in that same way, but the reality is I think they won't. I don't know. Like this seems I think this is going to be a long time for getting this approved to go through. I think there's a lot of people with a lot of interest in this. Um, but Netflix itself, in putting this through, this is like a lot of risk, and it's also a lot of risk for Warner Brothers because like if it doesn't go through, there's just a lot leading up to that that could basically devalue the whole Warner Brothers like catalog and everything like that. So I'm curious to see what happens. I mean, I think it's kind of like bizarro land out there. And I do think that the fears of creative like filmmakers and are well founded because of what they saw what happened before, and this is even like more massive in terms of the scope of what this would mean. Um,
And from a consumer perspective, I mean, yeah, we've seen some of these mergers happen where it didn't. I mean, I'm not, for me, Disney's mostly what I'm interested in. There is some good stuff on Hulu that I like to watch occasionally, and I don't care about ESPN. So their bundles have been made in a way that I think kind of work for me. I am concerned about what Netflix and HBO might look like, whether they when they start building these packages. And honestly, with the price increases that have been going on throughout this and computer, and like Microsoft did an insane Xbox Live increase recently. It was like 30% or something, or even more. And so I just canceled that. But and that's it's as easy as that. Like you can do that, but I feel like
well, there's another thing.
all the advances we made in cord cutting are being undone, and that's just really frustrating.
Right. And like that Microsoft, like they had acquired Activision, and that was like the argument is that in terms of like competitiveness and just sort of having this corner on the market and the like in the increase in the prices for consumers without competition, you can and you're like the main price setter. But also, again, like with any kind of theatrical release, I mean, I don't know, like, I guess you could argue that there's a lot towards streaming and that there's, um, that we're seeing it like, let's face it, like movie theaters are really on the line in terms of survival, and they're all trying to do these different models to survive. And I don't know that Netflix has a ton of interest in keeping that model alive. So I and it would be just a real shame, and in my opinion. I mean, I know we talk about the bad experiences going to like actually to the theaters these days. Although I will say, I just went the other night to my friend Brad's film premiere. He did this horror film called Goetic, and there is something about being in that room with people that are really enjoying and like just really enjoying the like atmosphere and like that community experience that I don't that I would it would be just to me just a tragedy to have that die. And I do not think that I do think that that would go away or go away dramatically, and not just in terms of what could be um created and released in the theatrical sense. It's then you're also talking about the streaming, and there's like a chokehold on that. So I do worry about it. I don't know. Um, I think it's going to be a long road, but I really hope that it doesn't go through personally. For a variety of reasons, but this just doesn't. This seems like amazing that it would even this is even presented as a possibility. Quite frankly, but
I think the 21st Century Fox Disney example is complicated by COVID because I think that closed like a year before COVID started, and so I find it really tough to disentangle like the effect that everybody went streaming first in COVID, not just the Disney angle of things. Um, but the antitrust argument is really interesting, and I think there's a strong possibility that Paramount may try to basically sink this, like the Ellisons are close to Trump. They may go to Trump and whisper in his ear about, the dangers of this. To me, on the outside, not being an antitrust lawyer, it doesn't pass the smell test to think that Netflix plus Warner Brothers is a monopoly, but Disney isn't. I mean, Disney owns Marvel and Star Wars and their entire streaming library and FX and. So the amount of content that's available on Disney is just it just dwarfs anything else. So how can you say that Netflix plus Warner Brothers is going to be a monopoly when Disney isn't? It just doesn't pass the smell test to me. And Disney um, was able to secure many acquisitions in the last decade without much regulatory scrutiny. So, not to say it won't happen, but it just doesn't pass the smell test to me personally because it's hard to make a case that something is a monopoly when there's can be an even bigger monopoly out there than that isn't it's not a monopoly anymore.
Well, I will say that people were commenting a lot yesterday, and just based upon those comments, I think it's going to be a pretty long path. And so there is a lot of skepticism, interestingly, on both sides of the aisle. So I think we will watch this drama unfold and maybe buy some popcorn and get ready. So so we shall see.
Two
Um,
last points. I know I've already talked a lot, but there's two quick points that I wanted to make. One is that I think it's really interesting that the reaction to this has been pretty much uniformly negative against Netflix because Netflix used to be essentially like a premier channel that everybody had a lot of positive feelings toward. And so I just think it's a very interesting kind of brand discussion about why people are so down about them owning this. I think if you go back 10 years, Netflix is not seen in this like pretty negative light that it seems to be seen in now.
I see that too. But also I feel like they've just been around so long that people have seen their bad decisions. And so they've lost the luster over the years, right? Remember when they used to rescue shows and people were like, "Oh,
mhm.
they're the savior of television."
Yeah,
Like,
Arrested Development and
yeah,
all
and
these
now
other shows
they
are
now
yeah.
they have the same reputation that Fox had when it was canceling Firefly after one season, and because they do that too, right? They follow those margins because they've hired enough of those same idiots to just cancel shows as soon as they appear to be like not making it work instead of like actually because they I remember Kyle, you and I think talked about this a long time ago when they came up with House of Cards, Netflix. You were like, well, they've got all this viewer data that people like Kevin Spacey. I mean, then they did, and they like shows about Washington, and they like, these, plot hooks, and then they made a show basically based on the data that they had from the viewers. And I don't think that they use that model anymore. I think now it's much more cutthroat market driven.
Yeah, and what can we make for the cheapest possible amount, and how can we shoot it for the cheapest possible amount and still have it look, decent? So,
Yeah.
um, so that's one interesting point is just Netflix's slide as a brand, basically. And then the other one is like why do the three of us like care about this at all? Like, why should anyone give a shit what happens at this level? That goes back to like the sense I think that everybody has who loves like quality or prestige, like film or TV, which is the sense that all the great art that comes out of these places is like an accident. Like,
Mhm.
like HBO's run in the like mid 2000s where they did like The Wire and Deadwood and The Sopranos and all that stuff was like made for like this tiny fan base in the grand scheme of things and financed by people who were, forgot they were still signed up for AOL broadband. Like it, it the the stuff that gets made that is truly kind of like art or like kind of like high art in a way is so precarious amongst the media or the content that these places put out that I think everyone's always worried that it's going to be like the first thing to go. And so, you know, I think everybody cares about this so much because to some extent, like none of the things that are really, really high quality actually make money at these places like reality TV does or like streaming, churn stuff does. And so like what am I worried about? I'm worried there's not going to be a weapons. I'm worried that HBO is going to get diluted and they're not going to have their same track record of making, shows. Like it's it's all this stuff that comes out of these places that's good that feels almost kind of accidental. Um, and so, that's why like us sickos actually care about what happens with all this conglomeration at the very top. So,
For sure.
So that's everything we have to say about HBO and Netflix for now. I'm sure there'll be more as the details get revealed of how they're gonna be doing this. We do actually have some zombie things to talk about since that is theoretically the whole point of us getting together. These
And we'll get on to complaining about the zombies now.
Yeah, and there's some things we could complain about. Uh, First of all, just in order on our show notes, we've got an article here about what's coming next in 2026. We've definitely seen some of these, um, or we know about. We Bury the Dead is coming out. That's coming out very soon in January. The Bone Temple is coming out also in January. January is going to be a fun month for us. And a show slash movie, probably a movie called This Is Not a Test, is also being promoted. It's a high school zombie situation. Daryl Dixon season 4, which I've got to say I'm not super excited about now that we've seen three seasons of it. This is Walking Dead, Dead City season 3, and then finally Zach Kreger's Resident Evil.
I've talked
Yeah.
about Weapons a few times already because I watched it recently and I loved it a lot. And so I'm cautiously interested to see what Krager does with Resident Evil.
Well, I don't know that we need another Resident Evil film. That's my take.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. That's why I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, there've been a few reboots even in the last 5 years, uh, and yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, kind of excited about this new project. This is not a test that I hadn't heard about, so I don't even know when it's coming out, but it's an IFC Shutter project. And there's on the art is the young woman with a lot of blood on her face. That's always fun.
Always.
Also always fun. Never not fun. Rumor, this is definitely filed under rumor from totalentertainment.com, is that apparently, without citing a source anywhere, Denai Guerrero has been talking about making a Broadway adaptation of The Walking Dead. And when they say it's Denai Guerrero, without citing a source, it's very sketchy. But if there was anybody involved in The Walking Dead that I'm aware of who could have some believability, I mean, she have a Tony? I feel, or she's at least she's an award-winning playwright.
Yeah, I mean, I think she could definitely pull it off. But also this has been kind of a running joke. Like she's joked about it, so Scott Gimple. I feel like this is maybe uh, and maybe it's like people floating something to see if actually something could happen. I mean, obviously, Stranger Things is on Broadway right now, so maybe they're seeing that this is a potential. If she ends up going on Broadway, I would absolutely go and watch her. So let's see if this has legs, but I kind of think that they're just messing around.
Yeah.
I would love this. I would be so happy if this happened. So, just for pure entertainment value alone. So I'm rooting for it.
Well, right now, Lost Boys is there's a musical for Lost Boys on Broadway, which I'm like, I don't know anything about it. I just saw that it was there, and I'm like, all right. Well, I guess if they do one, Walking Dead could certainly do one. But I do think that the most sense would be just to make Anna and the Apocalypse into a Broadway show since it already has a score and all that jazz.
And
But
pretty good score. Yeah.
yep,
I would 100% go to see Anna and the Apocalypse on stage.
yeah, that would be
Just not
fun.
sure who I would get to go see it with me, but
Me.
yeah, okay. Well, I mean, if it's in San Francisco, would you fly out?
Okay, Stuart, Broadway's in New York.
I know. Just a musical. I don't know.
Broadway is in New York.
I get it. We could go to the West End in London.
I think you're gonna have to fly.
I've never been to a Broadway show in New York. I don't feel like today's the day.
Oh gosh. Mm.
Yeah, there's an exclusion zone around New York. But
I
Mm-hmm,
think
mm-hmm.
if, and I know you guys were discussing a different show, but if you've never been to see a Broadway show in New York and then you go to see the Walking Dead musical, that is like really sad. Like you should probably see a few others
Yeah,
here or there
I
just
kind
to
of
make up for it.
agree. I think if we get Stuart to do this, it's gonna have to be a marathon, a musical marathon.
I don't see. Is this one of these arguments like Guinness always tastes better than in Ireland? And is it one of those kind of things? Because if I've seen a musical in the West End of
Oh,
London, that's actually where I've seen more musicals than anywhere else because I used to live in England.
yeah.
Is
I'm
that
sorry,
not the
but the
same?
talent, I think the talent in New York is deeper.
Interesting.
I do. I think it's just a different
It's
thing.
is the
And
Guinness
I
tastes better in
really
Ireland argument.
and I do really like the West End, and I think that they have incredible talent out there. But Broadway's Broadway.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think London versus New York is one debate, but definitely the Broadway shows, even just from like a stage and technical perspective, are way better than the touring shows that you're going to get in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. San Francisco. Yeah. Although that's where I've seen Hamilton there, and weirdly I saw it in London, and they were they were on par with each other. Frankly, they were both really good. Um, the King's accent was impeccable in London, as you might not be surprised to hear.
Did you also eat bagels in London? Just curious.
Uh, we were not on Brick Lane. I have had bagels in London. There's great bagels in Brick Lane. I don't know if you've ever been down there. Uh,
I'm messing with you, Stuart. I really do love the West End, so I don't want people to think I don't. I think it's great, but I also kind of want you to come to New York and see a Broadway show. So,
fair. Okay. Uh, good. Not gonna happen though. Probably Walking Dead on Broadway. I don't think it's in the cards, but if it happens, then that's my gotta go to New York and see a Broadway show and not feel like it's weird or ironic, Kyle. Because it's that's one thing that I would do. And then this new Walking Dead spinoff probably isn't coming in 2026. And I do think that this is another article from Undead Walking, and it is sort of scary in a weird way, although it shouldn't be. What's I find a little unsettling about this is that, yeah, Daryl Dixon's ending next year. I don't know about Dead City. I don't think they've made an announcement, but I can't imagine it'll stick around much longer. And then there's no announced new show. And then is The Walking Dead truly going to die? We've had Scott Gimple saying in 2025 he wants to make the forever franchise, zombies all the time on TV. But there's no, I mean, there is an announced more Tales from The Walking Dead, but with no production news at all.
I think they're gonna pull this out of the bag. I think it's gonna like there's gonna be something that they announce. I just don't think that they have it in them to let this go.
I
I
mean,
don't know what it'll
maybe
be.
AMC, maybe the number crunchers at AMC are finally going to be like, look, yeah, you guys used to pull in an audience of 1 million plus every episode, and that was great. Good times. Now it's like a fraction of that. We cannot justify the cost of making these shows anymore.
Hmm. It'll be Walking Dead actually. They'll have Andrew Lincoln do a holiday themed zombie thing. I
Yeah.
don't know. I hear you, but I just don't I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I definitely think that they will absolutely announce something else. I don't know what it will be, but
I think
I
Kyle's
suppose
of
up to
the
you.
impression that this show's been on life support for a decade already anyway. Is that true, Kyle?
I would say that my understanding of The Walking Dead and how many people watch the spin-offs must be wrong because it's lasted so much longer than I thought it would. Like
Yeah.
so I must just it's that like that that Simpsons meme like is are the kids wrong or am I out of touch? No, the kids are wrong with Principal Skinner. Like apparently there is a very large appetite for Walking Dead content that has now, you know, strung through like what, 4 shows post Walking Dead, something like that. So
6 spinoffs.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna count it out. Even if it goes away for a couple of years and then they reboot, they just start from the beginning again with a new cast or something. I feel like people will always want to watch The Walking Dead is my new stance.
Okay. Well, that's certainly AJ and me. Well, like we do want to keep watching The Walking Dead. I'm with Scott Gimple on this. I want the forever show to happen, but I'm a little concerned that they haven't got. I mean, maybe they're gonna make like 5 more seasons of Dead City, which is funny because AJ and I have like not really kept up with that one. But if that's the case, then I'll be thankful for what I get, the gruel in my bowl, as it were, and hope that they can keep making more as we go along. But I don't know. I'm a little bit
Well, and
concerned about this.
remember, Norman Reedus said he wanted to play Daryl Dixon for like the next decade.
I
So
think that was 10 years ago.
I don't think so. But we'll see.
Apparently,
Uh,
yeah, he rapped on, maybe I think there was an announcement that he rapped on season 4 of Daryl Dixon and wrote like a heartfelt goodbye to his fans,
hmm.
but said, Daryl Dixon's story isn't over or something at the end of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'll see what happens. As I said, something they will certainly come up with something. I don't know if it'll be good, but they'll come up with something.
Okay, well, that's our news for today. A little more inside baseball than usual. But hey, you know what, guys? We got into like corporate stuff. We got into Broadway. I'm proud of us. Well done. Pat ourselves in the back. And now it's time to watch the final or talk about the final 2 episodes of Marvel Zombies, episodes 3 and 4. A laugh riot, a romp, a lighthearted. No, it was sad and depressing, honestly. So very, very busy couple of episodes like the first 2 were. It's like hard to it's really not a smart idea to look away from the screen at any time, which is not usually how I consume my media these days, so it's kind of hard.
It really did feel like a long montage. Like it's just like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this. Like it felt like it never kind of like took a minute to like have a conversation or like, have two characters like take a breath for a quick second. And they kept being like it's one of those things in zombie media where like characters can't understand the like very common sense things that other people are doing to prevent the spread of the zombie plague. Like when they ran into the Nova Corps and they were like, I can't believe they're quarantining and not letting anybody out. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what haven't you seen what's going on around you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that they kind of sat there and didn't react for the countdown that Novacore was giving them at the end of episode 3. And then by the beginning of episode 4, they're actively getting destroyed because they just sat there for what was it, 3? I mean, it was only 3 seconds, but still, all you have to do is like back up your ship and like hit reverse and they will not destroy you. I don't know. It felt a little bit short-sighted, but I think they were supposed to be so in shock from this reversal of their fortunes.
Hmm.
It remains a very entertaining show. HA, what were your impressions of the episode 3?
Both of the like we're talking about both of these episodes. I'll talk about episode 3. Um, it's there was a lot of things that I expected within this that and actually within both of these, just uh you had kind of socialized this idea, Stuart, just like in terms of liking certain characters and not getting too attached to them.
Oh yeah, Blade had to die. He was way too
Right,
cool.
right, right. So I actually like even going into this particular episode, I was kind of prepped with that thought, that we were going to lose a lot of people. This did not, this did not actually shake out the way I thought it was going to, and I had deliberately not like done spoilers or whatever. So, you know, I think with the with are we talking about just Asgard, or you just want to talk about the cold open
See the
specifically?
cold. I mean, the cold open's the first thing that we watch, or that yeah, that we go back in time and we get narrated by Peter Parker, basically.
Right. So we see, it's kind of nice to know that some of the Avengers kind of made it into the like non-zombified way, and then this answers some of the questions that we had just about um what happened to T'Challa and everybody else. But basically, Peter Parker's talking about T'Challa and Scott Lang's head, which was really kind of funny.
Yeah,
Um,
this was directly from the What If episode, but I have like completely forgotten.
yeah, I
I
had
knew that there
forgot
were
that
a,
too.
a couple of people, including Peter Parker and T'Challa, left at the end, but I think I even rattled off some names the last time we talked about it, but I don't think that that was correct. But what we end up with is those 3: Scott Lang's head in a jar
Yep,
with Doctor Strange's floating cloak, and T'Challa and Spider-Man in a Quinjet heading to Wakanda, which is kind of, I guess, where I mean, maybe
where
that's
we expect.
exactly where What If ended out, but
And the thing is that, and this is like we were talking before we got on, But the whole idea of Thanos and, the Infinity Stones and like I just in general and I thought this with the MCU and this whole theme, it's too powerful. It creates like too powerful of like a superpower and ability. Um I do think it's so they're basically, and he wants the Mind Stone that they have. And because that makes the glove less, it makes it all powerful at that point. Um but they have zombie Thanos that's basically doing his damage as always. And it's just a whole sequence of them basically coming up against a power that just cannot be destroyed. Um, Although I guess kind of gets destroyed in the end. Like to me, it's sort of like you have this unbelievable power that you're not going to be able to fight against, and it just feels like a lost cause, and it's kind of depressing and also annoying because it's just boring. I mean, they go through a lot of different sequences where they're all fighting him. I thought that they might do a let's cut off his hand kind of thing. They don't do that. I did enjoy some of the antics, and the narration was kind of funny, but I don't know. This was to me, this was like I don't want to talk about the next one yet, but
Yeah,
all
just stay
felt
on
a
this
little boring
sequence.
to me.
Kyle, what'd you think of the whole Thanos fight?
S- Zombie Thanos was kind of fun. I don't really understand the appeal of watching these beloved characters just get killed over like a beloved character introduced, beloved character dies, beloved character introduced, beloved character dies. Like to me, it's just not fun. It just bums me out. So like Rocket's little skull. Like Rocket and Groot show up with Thor and they charge at Thanos, and then Thanos gives this big blast of energy and basically incinerates, um, Rocket and Groot, and it just is kind of like, what? Why am I watching this? Like, what's fun about this? So that part kind of bummed me out, and then it also really bothers me when you can't figure out this what the villain's powers are or how they scale. So it's like, okay, Thanos can repel Thor, who's supposed to be basically the most, one of the most powerful Avengers. And then he repels T'Challa with one of the stones, but then T'Challa without any of the stones can kind of like punch him in the face and push him backwards into falling over the edge. Like it just doesn't make sense. It just is
Right.
like it's nonsensical. So it's like zombie Thanos was kind of fun for a moment, but by the end of the fight I was kind of bummed out and bored and also like starting to nitpick the the power scales a bit, and whenever I start nitpicking power scales, I know that the it's lost me because if you're with the show or with the media, then you don't spend time thinking about that stuff. But he was really egregious, where I was just like, how strong is this guy? I literally can't figure it out. So
I will say it's frustrating to watch the Thor scenes in both of these episodes, based on what he can do while he's alive, and then spoiler alert, when he's a zombie, feels night and day.
Mm.
He seems to be he basically becomes a Thanos power by the end of the show, and while he's alive, it's always been frustrating to me how Thor can't really get in touch with his power. It always takes some like it's almost even in his movies, it's always seems to be
Yeah,
happening at the
he's
end
always
when
depressed and
yeah, like he has to
weak, and
get his head right somehow or feel like, I don't know. And I guess maybe that's for, dramatic tension, etc. And it's but it's just we go through that way too much. And it's frustrating that as a hero he seems pretty impotent, and then as a villain he is omnipotent, and that's very annoying.
right.
Uh
And you definitely have like moments so that you have Spider-Man, T'Challa, and there and Scott Lang's head with the little cape thing, and then it seems like they're gonna get lost, and then you have another trio show up, and it's and they get blasted away, and like I kind of agree that just seeing these characters like die in this way is really depressing. And nothing's more depressing with the snap when most of like so many people, I thought that was pretty effective, but um I guess I just don't know what the point of doing this is. and it just felt like it was scene after scene of these kinds of like absolutely hopeless battles. Even if they give you a little bit of hope at the end, it does not feel like things are gonna turn around.
Yeah,
So
and the little bit of hope that they end this sequence with is that Scott Lang's head and Spider-Man are saved by the Wizards of Camartage. And here, I think we're getting into lore that I just don't know about Marvel. Like, who are these three? Who's the Green Minotaur, and who is the guy with the sword and the lady? They're apparently, like, I think, well-known Wizards of Camartage. I have no idea who any of these people are. And one of them, I think, is speaking Gaelic or something at some point. But maybe it's not important for me to know, but I don't know who these people are, so their appearance and then their ultimate fate matters very little to me.
The Minotaur was not in either of the Doctor Strange movies, was he? We haven't seen that guy in live action.
I
I'm not
don't
aware of
did
it.
we
Maybe in like a post credits or something, but it didn't seem familiar to me at all.
Yeah, because I was kind of like, well, these wizards are way weirder than I realized.
I mean it's a Minotaur, man.
But that's our like silver lining for the end of that sequence is that yeah, Peter Parker's been relating the story and kept saying like that it's a bad story, but he's alive, and so is Scott Lang's head at the end. And so, well, way to go. And then we jump uh to the escape pod that is landing on the shores of near New Asgard that came from the raft. And that has what's left of our original band of heroes, which is Shang-Chi and Katie with the 10 rings between the two of them. You got Jimmy Woo, Death Dealer, Baron Zemo, Red Guardian, who just lost Yelena at the end of the last episode, and Kamala. I'm forgetting somebody because there's actually a kind of a lot of them, but I don't remember who I'm forgetting. Um, well, I think that is everybody. And then and Blade, and they make their way to New Asgard, which, like in the movie, I thought it was like a fishing village. Here, it's maybe in this version of the multiverse, it's like this impenetrable fortress. I actually kind of really like the way that this sequence unfolds, storytelling wise. I don't know. What do you guys think of this, the revels and all that?
I mean, I thought it was fine. I thought some parts of it were pretty funny. Um, just with the Valkyrie and all of that. It like when the big reveal happened, I was just like, oh, really? And again, it's that same feeling I had with Thanos. The Scarlet Witch. It just feels like they both have a lot of powers and then they don't, and the things that thwart them don't totally make sense. So it's like the rules are always bent, like they're going to bend them depending on where they're going with the story. But I did like the opening piece where they're kind of being held. They're not allowed in because they're not gods, and that was kind of funny. Um, and Blade, Moon Knight, it was pretty funny too. So just because it's like I am a god and all that nonsense.
That
And
was
none of
fun.
them can see it. So none of the mortals can actually see it. So
There was some good
that was
comedy
like
in this.
some
I
good
mean,
comedy.
yeah, Red Guardian has, or David Harbour has great comedic lines. I feel like Tessa Thompson also, I think she's doing the voice of Valkyrie, also doing well. And then when they walk inside New Asgard and they're like, "It's so D&D in here" or something, and then they all start talking about their favorite classes to play. I was like, "This is amazing! I'm loving this." Uh, I thought that was really fun. Katie wanted to be a paladin. Kamala is like, "I'll be a barbarian," and Jimmy Woo said wizard. And I thought this is the best episode of television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I did like that this show remembered that Moon Knight was a thing that aired because it feels like the rest of the Marvel universe has forgotten about it. And
Uh-huh.
I really loved Moon Knight, and no one's ever talked about it ever again. So I was like,
I
oh,
liked Moon Knight
there
too,
he
and I
is.
thought it was a lot of fun. So I also was really happy to see that. So yeah.
Yeah. And Blade Knight turns out is kind of way cooler than the Moon Knight show, in my opinion. But uh, all things being equal, Blade is still just very, very cool, and it turns out he's got a giant god inside of him. But then we go inside and see the rebels. Red Guardian's super sad, so he sits down almost immediately and starts to join the Asgardians. And you can see that there's a lot of good Asgardians in here drinking and carrying on. It doesn't take long though to realize that Queen of Sokovia supposedly has brought them all this stuff. Kamala's right away on her guard. Thor is there, which we kind of imagined that Thor wouldn't have been killed by that thing that destroyed Groot and Rocket, but he's not great. He's not doing 100%.
Well, but he's also, again, he's depressed, in a funk, as usual, and we don't even really get much Thor action. There's just a lot of depression sitting around. So I feel like this is on brand from what we've seen anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but
Is that, do we know if that's like Norse canon that Thor is just constantly sad?
you mean like mythology?
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any kind of moodiness related to Thor.
I do feel like some of those pantheons, they treat their gods a lot like people where they're like kind of fickle and that they have human idiosyncrasies.
They do, but I don't know that I ever, see him as that. I think that's been much more of a Marvel interpretation. And maybe it's a way to kind of give him some kind of depth because, most of the things, I mean, at least as far as I know, I, I am certainly going to go and do research now. You've raised an interesting question. I do not have any recollection of Thor being sort of depressed and moody. I think he's generally kind of like this strong Zeus-like and obviously Zeus-like character. But I don't know that there's ever a depth to that. But
Mm.
um,
Another recent depiction of Thor that I quite enjoyed was in God of War Ragnarok, a
mm,
video game, which basically he's like kind of an alcoholic and very melancholy. So that kind of ties in Stewart with his presentation and a lot of the more recent Marvel stuff. But I don't know anything about the underlying mythology, but it's kind of
I
of a
mean,
piece with
the
me.
underlying mythology is like similar. I mean, everything I have ever read is similar to, just in terms of while they make him slightly more human than like the Greek mythology, although even that has human characteristics. It's not the depth is not there in terms of what you're seeing in the character building in the MCU.
Mhm. He's like more untouchable, like
Yeah.
fewer human
But he's
flaws.
still, but that's the thing. Like with Norse gods, are like kind of hanging out with humans, and they enjoy doing that and dallying and tricking them and all that kind of thing. So, but there's not that same like I don't know. You don't really get a lot of you don't get much about Thor's feelings, so to speak. So
Well, what is happening in these scenes is Wanda seems to suggest that she wants Kamala to come with her. Um, or yeah, because she says, "I don't want the transmitter." Right before the gig is completely up. Um, she wants Kamala, not the little transmitter doohickey. And then Red Guardian has the hilarious realization that he ate a lot of fingers because he's not eating steak or chicken or what turkey legs, as it turns out. So he's like the first casualty. We know he's a dead man walking. All these Asgardians are turning into zombies, and he's eaten a lot of fingers. So he's the first casualty in this sequence, and then there are quite a few, well, a handful of others, considering we had like what 6 or 7 people walk into New Asgard. The next one to die is Baron Zemo, who just is like, I really regret meeting any of you guys, and then immediately is killed. And
mm,
I kind of like that for a send off for Zemo, who they didn't give him another chance to betray anybody. They just kind of like they just got him out of there. And then you have Jimmy Woo and Death Dealer have built this kind of relationship over the last
mm,
couple episodes, and it's been kind of fun. And so, Death Dealer saves Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo is talking about how he's always there for him, and then they both they both get torn into pieces and killed quite brutally. But they were some of the last unpowered people in the group,
right.
right?
And I mean, just when you saw Jimmy Woo just being like, all he has is the gun,
Yeah.
it's it's not going to end well.
He's shooting Asgardian zombies with a pistol. Like I feel like they even showed some of the bullets maybe doing something. I don't remember if they did, but yeah, he doesn't last. Um, then they are running away. They're fairly able to hold their own. I guess Valkyrie hasn't been partaking of the revels. They're dragging Red Guardian with them, but he turns right before they get on the ship Kamala's having a pretty tough time with that. And then, but Thor apparently wasn't eaten by the zombies. We kind of had a second presumptive death scene for him, but he is fine and saves them from Scarlet Witch, who's trying to hold their ship in place. But then they are able to escape. Um, not a whole lot here, other than again, like yeah, Thor has found his mojo again. He wanted to fight. He's fighting. He's like, get out of here. But it's still a pale shadow of the kind of power that he's exhibiting later on in the show. So I find that just annoying.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of point. He's somehow holding his own against her, and she's got this just insane power. And later on seems to have a lot more power, and that doesn't seem to, I don't know, it just seems kind of crazy to me. Um, maybe I don't know, somehow the virus changes him or something. But
There's kind of a lot of not a lot, but there's starting to be more dialogue between Wanda and Kamala, maybe
mm,
through like telepathy, saying like, "I'm your salvation. I'm the hope you need. There's nothing in space for you." So that is kind of nice seeding some sort of. I don't fully understand how it actually plays out by the end, frankly, but I like the fact that they seeded this in there, that she's kind of mind screwing
messing with her
Kamala.
mind, yeah.
Yeah. And then they make it out to space. It's just Blade, Katie, Shang-Chi, Valkyrie, and Kamala on the spaceship. And quite comedically, Nova Corps appears in the middle of Kamala saying, "So how long do you think it's going to take for them to show up?" And then they're there. But then they have the quick realization that that was way too fast. They were already here. And hands up, anybody who thought that they were zombies.
I did.
Yeah, same. Like I was like, yeah, of course they're going to be zombies already because we just read that article last week about the zombie plague spreading to the whole multiverse. But I think that's a fairly recent comic book run. Kyle, were you surprised or expecting any of the way that this interaction went?
I did think they were going to be zombies, but I couldn't figure out how the zombies were flying spaceships.
Yeah,
So then I was
well,
kind of pleased that they didn't turn out to be zombies.
I mean,
Well, they
Zombie
made a big
Thanos is manipulating the Infinity
yeah, they made a
Gauntlet,
big
so
deal out of saying, he's learning and
Yeah.
thinking.
yeah.
So I thought that's where they were going with this. But they did not.
They did not. And so yeah, and to your point you made earlier, Kyle, like they make their huge mistake here at end of episode 3 going in episode 4 where Nova Corps is like, yeah, this is a quarantine zone. Y'all need to leave or go back to your doomed planet.
Yeah,
And
and I couldn't believe how incredulous they were. They're like, "What are you talking about? Why would they
Mhm.
do this to us?" And it's like, have you not seen everything else that's happening around you?
They are doing the exact right thing, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, and so this scene also doesn't really play. Wasn't sure how I thought this scene was going to play out, but like Nova Corps takes them out, like destroys their ship. They're not able to escape. It's kind of funny that Valkyrie keeps asking the other people on her ship to do things with the controls, and they have no idea.
Right.
It's happened a couple of times now, and I think that is actually pretty humorous. Shang-Chi is asked to I forget what, like hit a thruster or something, and then instead he turns off the spaceship, and then they get destroyed. I kind of like that. I don't think, I mean, obviously at this point things are so bad that I'll find humor in the lightest, in the easiest way I can. And they're just basically plummeting back to Earth inside a Miss Marvel shield until that breaks up in atmosphere. Another slightly funny moment here is that everybody is screaming and panicking as they fall to the earth, except for Blade in the background, who's just like standing there with his arms crossed. Did you guys see that?
I did like that. He's just like falling like a stoic
Yeah.
statue.
And then the other people are looking at him like, what the heck? Like, and he's just like, all right.
And they're all getting, then eventually they're all getting teleported, and it's kind of predictable where they're going to end up because we had the whole Camertage. We kind of know Camertage is at least sort of there still. There, it seemed like there were a few other refugees there. Um, and we get some exposition here that's like, right. So when Wakanda blew up, these Infinity Gauntlet energies were released, and then they all got sucked into one person. I think this actually was exposition delivered by Scarlet Witch in the last episode, but and she's like, I can't beat them by myself. I need your help. And so the Kamartaj guys are like, if she gets that, it's all over for the whole universe. And the only person who could handle all this energy was a Hulk. And so that's, and HA or Kyle, if from the What If episode, was the Hulk never there? Did we never see the Hulk? I thought the Hulk
I
got
don't.
turned into a zombie.
So did I, and so I was also a little bit confused because I thought that they had showed him, but maybe I was not remembering.
I
So
do not remember the episode well enough.
I feel like Ant-Man or somebody as a zombie bit. I thought it was Hulk, but it could have just been Captain America. Um, Either way, Hulk has apparently become neither Bruce Banner nor Hulk, and now he's kind of Infinity Man, or I don't know what. And he's
Okay,
just
so I'm looking at the sorry, Stuart, I'm
gonna
looking
go.
at the episode synopsis, and Banner was not bitten as Banner. And then in the very end of that episode, apparently Banner turns into Hulk to fight Wanda, and he's just kind of like surrounded by a zombie horde, and you never see what happens to him. So I guess the implication is they like can't bite through his Hulk flesh to turn him, and he
uh,
remains a non-zombie. Although he's kind of like I think they just kind of like pan away from him as he's getting like overwhelmed by zombies in the end of the episode.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. I guess I'd misremembered that. Obviously, if he'd been turned, if Hulk had been a zombie, that's like game over.
Yeah, game over. Also, real time fact checking. I just googled it, and apparently that Minotaur was in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is a show also like Marvel Zombies that I was on this podcast for. So we should all have remembered that, I guess. But I should have remembered
I'll
it since
admit
we
I
covered it.
saw that and I do not remember it at all.
I think it
Nope.
was brief. I think he like walked by, or he was like training in that mountain like temple or something like that.
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I have that Marvel amnesia where I've
Sorry,
just
don't.
seen. But that's our big exposition dump, and then the call to action is, and you heroes need to stop Scarlet Witch from getting anywhere near the Hulk because she now has an army of zombie as guardians, and that's strong enough to defeat him. And then we have like a really long fight scene basically that is it's kind of fun. Like honestly, I kind of liked the way that they choreographed this fight scene. The thing I kept comparing it to, the thing I compare a lot of big fight scenes to, is that horrible battle at Winterfell in Game of Thrones. Except here it's just like millions of zombies versus like seven people, and it's but it's kind of fun. I like the waves that they were sending. I like the giant zombies. I like the fact that the Hulk, Infinity Hulk or whatever his name is, was very powerful and pretty awesome. What were your guys' impressions?
It was fine. I was pretty checked out by this point in
It's
this
like 20
episode.
minutes of the show.
It was fine. I
Okay.
thought I thought Infinity Hulk was cool. I thought that the idea that he's the only being that can absorb all those powers was kind of fun, and it sets up, to HA's point, like this battle between the two, like unkillable, unstoppable people left in the Marvel universe, which is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of Infinity Hulk, but I also, just felt like he should have been making more progress because if you're going to give him that much power, then to me it's like actually make it a fair fight. Like I just don't know that any of those people would have actually touched him. And like when they do, it's I don't know. It just feels like it almost felt like Thanos had even more power somehow. And whereas Hulk knows how to like channel it, so I like the idea of it. I just, maybe I just don't like how depressing the storyline is and how they kill off everybody. But
And that's probably what we're dealing with too, is because it's not a happy ending. Of course, it's a
yeah,
zombie show. Why would we expect one? But it's a
yeah,
Kamala Khan story, and so you do kind of expect and hope for one. Um, I like the fact that they brought back all of her friends as zombies. I thought that that was a good psychological attack to do against her. Um, Everybody dies. Hulk, I'm not sure. based on the way this ends. Kamala does not, but she does capitulate, which is maybe the most depressing thing about this. She like gives up and says, if you can't beat him, join him, basically with Scarlet Witch. That's kind of wild. Really not what you expect from a Marvel hero.
Yeah.
No, and I guess, I at least I'm left like a little bit maybe still puzzled about what the Scarlet Witch's true motivations here were. Did she get turned and then just think, okay, assuming that the zombie virus is going to overrun the universe, I should kind of try to make the best of it? Or is she legitimately just kind of dark and evil and wants to infect everybody? You get this kind of like little happy facade at the end that, of course, is like her projecting into Kamala's mind. But maybe that's given what's here, maybe that's like best case scenario is like a Matrix like existence. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
very confused by the what the ending is trying to tell us about you know people's motivations and how depressed or not we should feel about it. But it left me feeling pretty depressed.
like a lot of this show, it leaves you feeling very depressed, but with a slight glimmer of hope. And some of those other glimmers are Val does get stabbed by a zombie Okoye, but you don't see her dead, I think. Spider-Man and Scott Lang's head also, I don't think you see them get killed outright, but they're grabbed by a giant zombie. And then in these weird flashes that she's getting when she's having boba with hallucinations probably of Kate Bishop and Riri, she does see Riri, the Ironheart, I think.
Ironheart. Yep.
Yeah. With a new arm because she had been bitten in episode 1, but had injected something or taken something, and
Yeah, like it was like a cure.
it looked like she was gonna die because she was surrounded by zombies. She was in the Valley of the Broken Gods. The
But
odds
the
of her.
Iron Man suit with the teddy bear head was
Yeah.
supposed to rescue her some way.
Friday tried to go rescue her. I thought Friday got blown up too. Either way, like she is still in play, apparently, on some level. Kamala is realizing that all things are not as they seem, and that's season 2 is set up, I guess. There it is. But would you guys be excited to watch it? It kind of feels like no.
I mean, of course I'm gonna watch it. But I
I said
did find that
excited. I said excited to watch it, AJ.
I really this just depressed me. I don't know. It didn't um if they had done more of a season with this and not left it on this cliffhanger, maybe I would be more excited. This didn't like I enjoyed this. I don't know that I am like I could take it or leave it, honestly. So maybe if the story arc changes a little bit, but this isn't, and it could just be where I am in my head right now, but it just felt really depressing to me.
Kyle?
I would not be excited to watch another season of this. I think it was best left as a 20-minute, kind of concept in the What If series. And when it was in that format, I thought it was fine. I find the decision to expand it out to a full series in the first place like baffling and kind of indicative of where Marvel is right now, kind of like visionless and without a lot of understanding of what its purpose is. And I just don't even understand who could possibly be left. Like who could you mix in from the rest of the MCU for a season 2? Like it feels like everyone's already zombified. So
Yeah.
either you do some sort of resetting, or I guess you could look at the other universes, which is just so exhausting to even contemplate, like pulling in all the other Peter Parkers or something. But no, it's not something I'm excited for, and it made me kind of depressed about like the MCU as kind of a big picture, like shared universe. Just because it is so such an obvious kind of like weird little catch grab kind of thing.
So I'm with you guys on the depression. It's a real buzzkill, real bummer of a show. However, I think any time in Marvel where you've got these darned infinity powers, you literally can undo everything that's happened. And so as long as there's a hero who can potentially do that, you can reset everything back to fine. that's super dumb as a storytelling mechanic, but it is a mechanic that's available if they want to go there. So I don't know. The scarcity of heroes could be undone in a moment, like that's just how that stuff can work.
Maybe you could
S-
like Groundhog Day it, where Kamala Khan, presumably because she seems to be kind of the main character, is just like rerunning the zombie apocalypse over and over again to see how she can stop it, you know? She gets the power somehow and she just like resets
Mm.
it and runs back the clock every season to try it again.
yeah, and presumably she has infinity power in her because it was when she touched Scarlet Witch, the little weird colors went into her too.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'd say sky's the limit, with a side of deep depression and sadness. I guess that's everything we have to say about Marvel Zombies. I mean, it's a well-produced show. It had some laughs. It's just that all the laughs were followed up with people getting killed. Like Shang-Chi and Katie also, I'm pretty sure get killed. Like both of them get bitten, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, rough
I did think
stuff.
it was funny that like all these other people can get dismembered or incinerated or whatever, but Peter Parker, Spider-Man, that's like a step too far. They did not show Spider-Man just
Nope,
getting
they
his
did
like head
not.
torn off or anything.
Nope. It was about to get bit off by a giant zombie, but they drew the
Nope.
line.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for coming on this journey with us, Kyle and HA. I'm sorry that if you need to go outside and have a walk in the sunshine, you should do that.
I do. I definitely do. Without question.
Kyle, I
Uh,
know there's no sunshine in Seattle this time of year, so I guess just put on one of those light bulbs and eat some vitamin D.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take my D3 and then, just walk around outside and pretend I'm in Hawaii.
We don't know what we're gonna do next, HA Conrad, but we can have a conversation, and we hope that hey, you know what, folks, listeners, if you have thoughts about this show, did you find it too depressing? Did you find it just right? Let us know. Reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, and find the rest of our episodes online at reanimated.podbean.com, and hit us up over on the Discord, Zombie Brain Munchers Collective, if you want to have a chat. That would be cool too. So I'm gonna say bye-bye.
bye for now, and thanks for listening.
Adios.